Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be trying something different today. Instead of shilling for black hats like I normally do, black hats, the tactical card game with a hackable board for 2 players, fulfilling soon. Get your copy today. Instead, we're going to be opening some corporate slop. Yum yum. Booster packs. And we're going to be doing some ranting. I hear the internet likes ranting. It responds well to negative content. So instead of talking about what I love, which is black hats, we're going to talk about what I hate, which is money and card prices. And just to get some beautiful B-roll over the top of that, we're going to be opening up a box of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Trading Card Game by Shonen Jump, English edition, first edition, Justice Hunters, copyright 2020. This is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with trading card games and how they work, ostensibly, this is how you're supposed to buy cards from retail. Inside this box, there's 24 packs of 7 cards. Let's just do it quick. 4, 16. That's 168 cards in this box. I bought it for something like $40, give or take some shipping and tax. This is not, well, here the trouble begins. Is this what this box cost? It's what it cost me. If you were a local game store, this box probably cost you about this much. And then you would theoretically sell this box for $80 to a customer, which is what it's supposed to actually retail for. Here's the thing that makes it weird is that if you were to go to some website, like let's call it cardplayer.com, and you were to look up the price of this box, or rather, if you were to look up the price of all of the individual 168 cards that we were to open in this box, there's a very good chance that we would not individually find $80 worth of cards. There's maybe a decent chance that we come out with $40 worth of cards. And I say worth of cards, that would be like the rarer cards in the box are going to have a higher price on cardplayer.com. So essentially, what we're doing here is gambling. We are gambling to get the game pieces we need to play the game that we want to play. I can't even begin to describe how little sense economically, socially, spiritually that any of this makes. The things in this box are cards and foil wrapping. Both of these things are incredibly cheap to produce and manufacture. Cards, these are made out of a couple things. Probably the most important or expensive thing that they're made out of is art. The next most expensive thing that they're made out of is colored ink in the printer that prints that ink. And then they're made out of paper and machines that cut paper. It might not surprise you, or maybe it will surprise you to learn that these are essentially the very first manufacturing techniques and manufacturing materials that mankind has ever worked with. We've been using colored ink and paper and sharp implements to cut things for millennia, I believe. Double check me on that if that sounds fishy to you. Now it's also got some foil wrapping. Now that is shiny and made out of a very thin. I don't even know if it's aluminum, plastic. What are booster packs made out of? Okay, here we go, folks. Booster packs for trading card games are typically made of a flexible multi-layered material combining plastic, often low-density polyethylene or mylar, with a thin metal foil layer. All right, that is a little bit complicated to manufacture, I will say that. But I think that the foil wrapping, generally speaking, as a civilization, as a tech tree, we've got that one down. Almost everything that you buy from a store is wrapped in a thin, shiny plastic that is very reminiscent, and in fact, probably stronger than the kind that are used to wrap these cards. So we can assume that those are also relatively cheap material-wise, and that the pipeline for manufacturing that good is well established. So how is it possible that one card could cost a person who wants to play the card game like $150 if they were to buy that card by itself. We have concluded that it is made out of extremely cheap goods, yet its value as a game token is sitting here. Now this is really important. There's a reason this just really confuses me on like a fundamental level. Now, I can already hear people sort of clattering like, well, what about collecting stuff? Some of these cards have different rarities. Some of these cards have that's not how you spell unique. Some of these cards have unique art. And this unique art is also rare. So, here's the thing about rarity. Let's take this Yu-Gi-Oh box as an example. Of the 24 packs in this box, every single one of them promises a one foil card in every pack. Isn't that nice? So your one foil card could be a super rare. Wow, super rare. Nice. It could be an ultra rare. Wow, ultra. That's amazing. It could even be an uber super duper starlight rare. Let's not forget that. Now, does each one foil card in each pack have an equal chance of being one of those cards? No. In fact, the thing that's really strange about these rarities is that there is a official rarity distribution in each of these booster boxes, ostensibly to assure some level of fairness or what have you in the sort of gambling process. So in each of these boxes, I believe you will get 4 ultra rares, 2 secret rares. Ooh, secret. And everything else I'm pretty sure is a super. And these are basically the same cost as commons if you purchase them. So essentially, almost any money in the box, quote unquote money, is coming from these 6 cards. So essentially, I have this $40 box of cards to hunt for 6 specific cards. And these 4 and 2 cards are going to be pulled from a larger pool of something like, I don't know, 24 or 30 or 16. I don't know exactly what the number is. It changes set to set, I believe, depending on exactly which kind of set it is. But the point is that there's a very big pool of these, and you're going to get 2 and 4 of them. Neat. Oh, I don't even know where I'm going with this. It just makes me mad. Let's put it this way. A game genre that should be the most accessible, the easiest, the cheapest, and the fastest to get into. If you're a normie and you want to get into playing like a real game, there's a lot of different avenues you can go down. You can be a board gamer, you can be a card gamer, you can be a war gamer. There's a lot of different like advanced type of games you can get into once you break through the Settlers of Catan energy. But all of those games have some kind of barrier to entry that is kind of mandatory by virtue of what those games are. If you want to play, if you wanted to get into wargaming, you're probably going to need to figure out how to turn something that looks like this into something that looks like this. Now, for a lot of people, that's fun and an enjoyable hobby, but boy, that's a lot of effort to go through before you get to actually just start like playing the game that you want to play. The other type of game that you could be trying to engage with that's slightly more advanced than your Parcheesi or Ticket to Ride is maybe a role-playing game. You don't need miniatures, but they certainly help. And you're also going to need 5 friends, or at least maybe 3 or 4 friends who you can regularly schedule game nights with. And well, you're blessed if you certainly have that in your life. Now, the trading card game should have none of these problems. You should be able to get the pieces extremely cheap. You don't need to do anything to make your card look awesome. It just looks awesome. I didn't have to paint this. It just looks great. It's shiny. It's got a cool, like, robot dinosaur man with rockets coming out of his butt. It's amazing. I didn't have to do anything. I just opened the pack and I had the card. Speaking of cards, let's just start cracking into this while I'm ranting here and see what we come up with. Because we're gambling tonight, folks. Remember, they are just selling us gambling, and I hate it. Anyway, let's do it. The point that I'm trying to make here is that getting into a card game like this at a game store with really interesting mechanics and really interesting cards with an active community, it should have as low of a barrier to entry as possible. We got a Draco Tail Flame for our shiny here. Really, like, card games should have the advantage over all of these other games. And I think in a lot of ways, those advantages that I just described are very real, but card game companies are just constantly undercutting themselves. I think Pokemon is probably the one that does this the least. But if you want to play the game in terms of going to a card shop, sitting down across from the other random opponents that have showed up that night, and have a chance of winning and playing the game, the cost of entry for a 40 card deck, or in Yu-Gi-Oh's case, you're going to have a 15 card extra deck, so a 55 card deck. Manufacturing wise, this should be, at most, I should have to pay $1 per card here to get that card manufactured and shipped to me. And anyone who has printed proxies knows that that's basically the case. You can make your own cards or get cards printed from relatively small print run services, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I don't know, like, who's ripping off Wizards of the Coast on their manufacturing side. Maybe somebody hasn't explained to them that paper and ink are cheap. Now, you'll notice that I'm basically getting a pile of cards over here. These are my non-foils, and I'm separating out the foils. What really frustrates me about opening these packs and going through all of these common cards to look for the one that's shiny and take that one out is that these cards, these ratios were put here by the company. This isn't actually a rare card. That's not real. Like, gold is rare because it's hard to find, like on Earth. But these are rare because they only put one. They only put one rare in the pack. So that confuses me because we could make them not rare and then make them affordable, and then everybody would just be able to play with the cards that they wanted to play with. Now, I'm not a full-blown card game communist. I don't think these cards should be free. I think you should have to pay enough money that the company can continue to exist, and that the people who are making the card game don't have to be homeless or starving. That would be nice. But I do think maybe there's some kind of a line between making the ratio of valued cards be, what are we at? We have 11 packs open so far. This is how many of the cards would be cards people care about, because each of these cards cost nothing. Oh, wow, collector's rare cookie yummy. Yikes. Is there a point to this? Do I have a point? Can I tie this rant up into a neat little bow? I guess my point is that card games are really fun. They're really easy to get into because you just have to show up at an event that other people are at, and then you get to play the game with them. And if you are at a card shop and there's an event happening and it's for a game that you don't play, 9 times out of 10, you can borrow a deck from somebody. You can, worst case scenario, you can usually pick up a deck off the shelf, crack into it. You're going to get your butt kicked because you're playing with a pre-constructed deck in a local event, but you will probably make some friends, and then maybe you can invite them to play in an RPG with you if you'd rather be doing that instead of playing card games. Um, in summation, card games are amazing. They're incredibly fun. They have great communities. Also, I hate card games. They're complete scams. The companies use them to rip you off through FOMO and all sorts of bullshit tactics that I really fucking hate. And I wish that we could just buy cards for reasonable prices and then play cool games with them. Anyway, that's all for me, folks. Stay connected. I'll see you next time.